started on this. So let's go ahead. So today we are going to talk about different projects we can do in class that you can do for your final project, some various ideas, as well as just various routes of extra credit that are available if you want to do them, as well as routes for your extra credit in general. So if you go into, I need to change the text for this, okay? Because I believe my text makes it sound like it's mandatory. Okay, but I need a, but I will be publishing this. Sure, let's see over here, which is module 11, which is next week. Oh, nope. This week I'll be introduced to next week. Optional extra credit assignments that can act as a building block for your final project. So I went ahead and published that. Yes, I did get your email. I do need to reset it. I'm sorry, it's been a bit crazy in terms of emails. No worries. So with regards to the again to the to these first off, there's a extra credit assignment, and I'll go ahead and denote it as extra credit, which is the regular expression assignment. And I will make it worth 0 points because that is how I do things for extra credit, which is that if it's 0 points, then I can just add points on top of that. Okay, so there we go. Extra credit assignment has been done. And so now let's see here. So all this stuff over here, except for the proposal, is extra credit. So what kind of things can you do for your final project? I'll go over these tracks that are building blocks for you to get started, which is gaming, mobile development, or a web page. But first I want to talk to you about like options you may not have considered, right? So first off, this is a Raspberry, Stonks. Yeah, I renamed it from Stocks because that made sense. It was a stock simulator. All right, so this is a Raspberry Pi. And recently they only just raised their prices for the first time in like over a decade. So what is a Raspberry Pi? A Raspberry Pi is a computer that is the size of a credit card or smaller. You can get them, well, this one's $15. It has a, let's see, does it come with a with wireless? Anyway, they're powered by essentially just kind of the same kind of phone charger you would use, a phone power supply. Let's see, does it have, because it's got a W, Bluetooth low energies. And yes, so it's wireless. So this little thing is even wireless, which is great. You've also got these various Raspberry Pis, which are newer. This is essentially an entire computer inside a keyboard, like an old style Commodore 64. It's got one of these in it, which from $35. So these are actually good enough that you can do, actual computing on them, basic kind of stuff. Now, the reason I mention these is that when the things are small, that means you can put them in things like robots to control stuff. Notice these things over here are those little pins sticking out. Those are for connecting to other boards so that you can control things. It doesn't have to be particularly complex, but there's a ton of suggested but you could go over to Micro Center, which if you don't know what Micro Center is, look it up. It's the best place to get computer stuff. Okay, you can get some of these at Micro Center. You can order them online, but there are a bunch of projects that people have. So Raspberry Pi projects, and done in Python, I should mention. So here are projects at Raspberry Pi. Here are different projects that you might want to do. What are you making today? Ooh, a robot. Games. So build a line filling robot. So in other words, kind of like all the things you need for the sensor, for, what you'll need to get to build a robot. And it's got kind of the things. I'd be okay with you taking basically a project like this and doing it on and building something with where it has the directions on the website. So long as you just then add a +1 to it is the idea. But the idea here is that once you do that, you can use some code to read data from the center, and look, you can get it to follow a line. It's fairly, such things are, I mean, they're both simple, but they're very impressive at the same time. Now there's one particular project that I love, and I've mentioned it to people to do before. So let me go ahead and optimize my my share for video. Give me 1 second. So share screen, optimize for video clip, share, and it'll well. So here, just give me a second. This is a minute long. Okay. Everybody can see just fine. Was everybody able to see that?
Pointer gaffer tape to the skirting board, and if we look over here, I've got my Raspberry Pi sitting in its box with the straw sticking out there and the laser pointer shining into that. If you want to make sure that the laser's there, what we can do is we can turn the lights off, and then we can blow a little bit of flour. We can just about see the laser. There we go.
So,
turn the lights back on now, and then we can get some unsuspecting person to walk through the laser and set it off. And then when they walk back out again, and we can see whether it works with dogs. Loki, come. Yes.
So, and what this shows you is how to do these various things. So, Andrew, I'll address your message in chat. So it tells you all the things you kind of need. And what it was is that essentially the way it worked is that it had the laser pointer, shining into the detector in that straw over there. That's going through that straw over there. And so when the light is broken by somebody, going over it, when it could no longer detect the light, it sent out, that triggered something. Now here it was just giving out a beep, but for, a project, what I would do is do one of those additional things they added, such as it should tweet at you or send you an email, and actually notify you that an intruder has come by. But it goes with the step-by-step directions of how do you build this thing? How do you write a script to do these things? How to make a noise, And again, notice that a lot of these projects are done in Python because Raspberry Pis are meant to be easy. Python's meant to, so this is just kind of an exciting thing to mess with. It also brings up Pygame over here to help play a sound, which is something we should also take a look at. Now, there was a question about if you were going to go on to the internet and follow the steps, that's perfectly fine. That's acceptable. That's not cheating. But it would be cheating to basically take somebody else's complete project and turn it in as though it's your own. Here, if you're following like hardware and step-by-steps, then that helps. That's a good thing to do. Here is so if you want to make games in Python, there's a library called Pygame, which is not built in. You'd have to install it using pip, which is, and there's instructions on how to do that. You would want to go into your command line and run basically the following commands. But this is a module for basically creating games. Okay. And you can make all sorts of different kinds of games in this. What's this? Jelly cubes demo. So jelly cube, but basically you can make all sorts of stuff. Here is you know, something with that does 3D stuff. Alan Zweigart. So this guy, he wrote a couple of different books. Scratch game, automating the boring stuff with Python, making your own games with Python and Pygame. That one came out, is a bit not outdated, but it does use older things. Here we go. Sequel. So here he shows you how to make clones of 11 different, let's see, 11 different games, such as a Tetris spinoff with the full source code. Now, mind you, I wouldn't want you to use the full source code like that. That's not really useful, but like you could see the code, and maybe, again, one of the projects that won a previous semester was basically a four-way Tetris, where you were building, where basically the pieces were falling from the sides of from all four sides toward the center, and basically you group them up and tried to prevent them from going out of bounds for as long as possible. So that's there's all sorts of things that you can do, making a twist to a game like that. So if you're looking at a choose your own adventure game, if it's just going to be pure text, you don't really need to do anything with an additional thing, because that's just text. You're printing out stuff. It's all done in console, so that's fine. But also, I would again let you know that there is that for those of you who enjoy visual novels and the like, there is RenP, which is used to make different types of games made, so these are essentially visual novels, which are choose your own adventure games. One of the most famous ones is Doki Doki Literature Club, which is a twist on the standard. It is a twist on the standard romance dating game. Instead of actually being a dating game, it actually turns out to be more of a horror game, a meta horror game, with a lot of that's really spooky and really scary. I highly recommend it. It's a great game, a great example of games. The original game is available for free, and now they've got it on an enhanced version on basically all of them on every platform. It's pretty good. And it was written in RenP. And it's worth playing just to see how much you can. If you're doing something in RenP, it's worth taking the couple hours to play it. It's open source and free for commercial use. What does open source mean for those of you who can somebody explain what open source means?
It's free for people to use.
That's one meaning of it. Well, actually, yeah.
Anybody can add or like improve on the code. So like Android is open source, which means is that anybody can improve it.
Yeah. So open source code is one of the tenets of the free software movement, which is basically they advocate for software to be both free in the gratis sense of the term, as they put it. So free as in free beer, and free in the free speech sense of the term, meaning that the code is available for people to use it without having to decompile it. Many people are in favor of the open source open source portion of it, the free as in free speech, without necessarily being in favor of the whole, you should be able to sell your software and make money from it kind of idea. In fact, there are a number of open source companies like like Canonical, which has Ubuntu, which produces Ubuntu, and more importantly, Red Hat, which produces Red Hat Linux. The source code of Red Hat Linux is available by anyone to compile and make their own operating system. In fact, people do that and they release their own version of it as CentOS. So why would you go with Red Hat Linux if you could just download CentOS for free? Well, because Red Hat comes with support and basically the guarantees that certain things are going to work. And when they don't work, there's somebody you can call and tell to fix it and not have to worry about the charity of others. Can you use Flask? Of course you can use Flask. I think actually we talk about Flask in the web track, which I will go into. Now, also, before I go into the tracks, because the tracks are there for anybody to see at any point, I also want to talk about a couple one more thing. For those of you who are more artistically inclined, I would check out magenta.tensorflow.org, which is got a bunch of demos over here about how, and I mess with this stuff all the time. And I do actually mean all the time because I do a lot of music stuff for fun. So here, let's see. So here, one project that you could do is that you could, let's see, is that you could build a synthesizer specifically using the instructions here. GAN being a generative adversarial network, as they explain. So different ways of building stuff. I'm trying to remember, but there is a like the there is a not a paper here, but a hardware. There it is. So NSynth Super. So this is basically the instructions for building a synthesizer from scratch. I don't know what scikit-learn is, but basically you can build this and you've built yourself a musical instrument, which is really cool. So some kind of demos with regards to music. This one takes a game. This one is a game. It basically takes music that's been generated by a machine, and it's a platforming game. So right now it's okay. Use up. Okay. So the entire thing was generated by. So that entire melody is generated by a machine learning thing. Yeah, you can use it. Now for the code, a lot of stuff is generated in what are called Jupyter notebooks, which are basically easy to use kind of things broken up into things that basically they are these little snippets of code that you can individually run using Python, here I've got a computer that's remote. I'll connect to it, and basically what it's doing is that's executing this Python code over here to generate and what it's doing is that this is basically based off of TensorFlow, which is a lot of Google's work into machine learning. Here it's downloading the sounds for a piano. Yeah, Jupyter is fine. You can use whatever technology you want for your final project. Okay, so okay, so this will be going on. This will go on for a bit because it takes some time for it to get done. But I would take a look at this website if you are interested in kind of anything that's on the more artistic side of stuff, because it's all open source and available for you to play with. This is a Jupyter notebook I use constantly. So here it's just building it. This is saying, hey, there's a warning, but it's fine. Lots of warnings about TensorFlow being an old version. Okay, while this is going, let's take a look at these tracks. So let's say that you really have no idea what to do. Okay, so there's 3 different tracks that are suggested. They are linked from on CS50X. That's fine. That's deprecated. It's an older version. That's fine. This is built. You can also look at the it works on the web track because that one is they have a new version. That's okay. So what it does is that it shows you how to write in a completely different language called Lua. Now, why should you care about Lua? It's a very common scripting language, especially if you're going into gaming. It's worthwhile to know about Lua. For example, the UI in World of Warcraft is written in Lua, and a lot of the mods are written in Lua. You'll be creating something called you'll be working with something called Love 2D, which is it's for making 2D games. Let's see, somebody is. There we go. And so it goes step by step as to how to build these, as to how to build basically Pong from scratch using this language. And once you learn a language, honestly, it's not really too bad to learn another one, right? Okay, so the if statements in this language are done by doing an if and then an end and then a then instead of a colon. Okay, that's not too bad. The equal sign is still there. You still call functions using the dot method, right? Here, that's a bit weird, but I think they give that to a lot of stuff they give. And it makes everything, this will make everything but the very end,
All right,
which is getting the player 2 to move on, player 1 or player 2 to move on their own. Make sense?
everything looks as it should. But if I
got all these videos here, and then it tells you how to basically make a Mario spin-off.
all right, so now
And basically how do we make music with it? Kind of how to make a Mario style. So this, and it tells you how to do it in Lua, which you don't have to do. You could do it in Pygame if you want to. This is just simply I'm just simply linking you to this resource because this course, this CS50 course, is extremely well designed and this track has a lot of very well considered instructions on how to do that. Okay. So these are about 2 weeks worth of work, by the way, I should say, the amount of with all these. So if you're in the if you're interested in making a mobile kind of game or a mobile app, let's say, not a game, a mobile app, you'll be wanting to look at that. First off, you have to choose whether you're doing it for Android or iOS. And importantly, if you plan on developing for an iPhone, you have to be working on a Mac to legally do it, I think. I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it, but none of them would be like 100% legal. So now you're going to be building the same things. They're just going to be done in different languages. It's so if you want to learn how to do something to write an app for iOS, then you'll want to use you'll be learning how to do it in Swift, okay, which is Apple's programming language, which if you want to go and work for Apple, it's not a bad idea to know that language, you know? It's not gonna, here's another thing. Again, the more languages you know, the easier it actually becomes to pick up another language. So learning another language isn't actually all that hard. Android development, if you try to do Android, that is going to be done in Java. Useful to know Java. And of all the languages that I basically I can answer language specific questions about Java and about Python. C and C++ somewhat. I can use them if I have to. I don't like it though. But Java and Python are the two languages I'm really comfortable with. That being said, I don't really work in Android development all that often, but it's a pretty straightforward language. And if you decide to go with building stuff in Java, you'll certainly have a head start in the next semester. But this is how to build it. And they take you through how to build basically a, and the development takes you through how to build a Pokédex essentially. And pull up sprites and that kind of stuff. So basically just a kind of simple, very simple Pokédex app. You know, for those of you who don't know, that's basically a Pokemon encyclopedia, you know. So the other one, it tells you how to build like something with 50 gram. So essentially it's a Instagram filter style thing. So definitely something worth, if you're trying to make if you want to make a mobile app, making a Instagram style thing, you know, adding in filters beyond what's already available over here, that would be a good project. And then a note-taking program. So kind of yeah, those might seem kind of basic, but it does tell you how to do those kinds of stuff. And I like, again, learning all that stuff is super exciting. And finally, web. So web is definitely one of the bigger, actually, I'm trying to remember is if web or mobile is the, has the longer, yeah. The learning curve for the mobile track is a bit higher, it says. So the tracks overview does tell you. Yeah. So each track is about 2 weeks content and work for about 4.5 video hours of lecture. So they're great starting points for your final project because you could take one of those finished apps and then build up on top of them, right? You can't just submit one of those things because one of those things is an extra credit. So, so web, if you're interested in doing something with Flask, check out this web track because the first couple of videos will go over how to do, will show you how to build a homepage using HTML and CSS and a bit of JavaScript. And then the stonks one tells you how to use Flask, which is really, really useful. And again, as you can see here, the Python framework. So if you would enable you to basically make dynamic websites, things that basically where you can create accounts. Learning and these are, so once you're done with the any project, host it on GitHub. You've got it, and now you've got the start of a portfolio. That's really cool. But the most important now, and these are if you cannot and definitely if you cannot figure out what you will need by next Tuesday, choose one of the tracks, and then the worst case scenario, you need to modify your, you'll modify one of these tracks as your final project. Make sense? Okay, so what other kind of stuff are available? Now, again, talking about gaming is kind of easy because because gaming is very popular. There are two big frameworks out there. If you wanted to get started with writing games in like a professional environment, there are two big engines these days, which is the Unreal Engine, which is, as you can see, looks fantastic. And then the Unity engine. So, and, you can a lot of these things should be, I think, freely available for you to use if you are a student. In general, I think they might be available to use. So individual, student, free, personal, free. Eligibility, 16 or older who enrolled in an accredited institution. What does it get you? It gives you a bit of extra stuff. So you can use this for free because they want you to get hooked on their stuff so that you'll pay for it when you are here and working on a team and trying to build a professional environment. What does this give you? Part of it also is that your splash screen isn't gonna be a generic kind of hey, this is kind of a personal project kind of thing. And then publishing license, free to use. So pretty cool licensing over here. Which is depending on what you do. With 2 licensing options, depending on whether you pay royalties, you want to pay royalties or not, but they're free to use and free to learn. And certainly for this kind of thing, these are good. These are good kind of places to learn. Now, one kind of thing. So what kind of games would I suggest? 2D is probably a good one. Something with simple mechanics like a side scroller or a hit the ball and make it bounce kind of game like Pong or Breakout. Looking to emulate an old game like Donkey Kong, you can't really go wrong with that. One popular type of game that's making a resurgent is the roguelike. Which are basically, they have 2 kind of, they're based off of these kind of old games, which have 2 defining features. Hold on a second. The first is the concept of permadeath, which is that there was saving, yes, and loading, yes, but but there was only one file, and once your character died, that file got deleted. So basically, you only get to you can't really undo any decisions you make. You can stop playing and resume playing, but you can't undo decisions. Okay. What was the other big one? And that's where the kind of rock, paper, scissors? Rock, paper, RPS? Are you referring to rock, paper, scissors with RPS? RPGs. RPGs are great. Roguelikes are actually a subgenre of role-playing games. Oh, so right there in the script. But the other one is procedurally generated dungeons. That's one of the big things about roguelikes. Roguelikes use procedurally generated dungeons. The idea here being is that creating good levels is so hard. I'm gonna make the computer do it. And now I can make that a feature and say that the levels are randomly generated so that no 2 playthroughs will ever actually be the same. And learning how to basically make so let's see, make a roguelike in Unreal Engine. Sure, I think that's one of their, yeah. Let's see, so there's a couple of different ways to do it, how to make a roguelike game in Unreal. How to make I know that the websites themselves have, here, Unity 2D roguelike. And it teaches you, hey, how do we make a 2D roguelike game where basically that we've got, and the nice thing about roguelikes is that the animation is very simple. It's turn-based in the sense that basically taking a step or taking an action is a turn. You act and then everything else acts. So, you don't have to worry about, so the loop can be very simple. Just wait for player input, essentially. And as you can see, it's got, the idea here is that you maybe know about how to use Unity already, but then we've got 3 hours worth of videos to watch. It's not bad. I think you have to, do you have to have a account to watch it? So it doesn't like cookies. So allow all. Fine. Part 1 of 14. Oh, no, they're all on YouTube. So yeah, cool.
You'll see a dialogue.
So you can make these kind of thing. So you can make these kind of games. Oh, right. This was still going. Definitions. So on the art stuff, going back to this for a second, creating a checkpoint for this. This is just running in the background now. So this is just, again, running some extra code over here to say, hey, I want to create the model for creating a piece of music. Still running. It should take this step takes about a grand total of 30 seconds. See, 26 seconds and we're done. So now here I'll go ahead and just generate. So you can either have it try to generate a piano performance from scratch, or you can have it give it a bit of music to begin with. So I'm going to give it Claire de Lune as a primer. You can upload your own, but that doesn't work for me on Firefox. It works for me if I do it on Chrome. So here is Claire de Lune, the opening of it, for those of you unfamiliar. Now that's not actually, so what this is that this is stored in what's called a MIDI file, and then it translates the MIDI file into its own internal format. MIDI is basically the way we can kind of communicate with musical instruments and stuff. And so it's not actually notes. It's the same. It's like the source code for some music. So then we just hit this button and it will generate. And this can vary how long it takes to generate, but it will generate piano music based off of that. Now, again, I say this every time I present this because I talk about this stuff a lot. This is the 90%, a lot of times I don't end up with something good. But as you can see here, this is all Python code. Okay, so this is generating. We'll come back to it in a bit. So yeah, Unreal. And again, if you're wanting to do a website, I would recommend starting with this because you'll learn HTTP, you'll learn JavaScript, you'll learn Flask. I'm not sure let me see what the latest version of this has. So it does. So CS50X, the current version of it that's running, does have a extended course on a more official course on how to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then also on Flask. So that's useful. There's additional resources for that. How do you, okay, so good question here. How do you download NumPy and that kind of stuff? Okay, while this is still going. So let me go ahead and stop sharing the entire screen. So here you're going to have to make use of the command line. We were able to get away with it for a while, but now we have no choice. Okay. The best way to install something. So first off, yep, pip installs is the best way to do it. So the way we should do it is, let's go into settings. Ooh, nice. So appearance. So what I want is does it have fonts or whatever, vintage, whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and try and So first off, you should open up your terminal. Just like go to your Finder if you're on a Mac, hit start and type in terminal. It'll come up with either a command prompt on Windows. I installed something called the Windows terminal, which is very useful here. But what you want to do is type Python. It should come up with Python 3 point whatever. If it comes up with Python 2 instead of Python 3, what you're going to want to do is type Python 3 instead. Okay. As you can see over here, prompting me to install Python because it doesn't recognize the command, and that links it to opening up in the store to install it. Regardless, if this doesn't come up, the easiest way to fix this is to just reinstall Python. And you'll want to check something called, when you reinstall it on Windows, you'll want to check something called add to path in the install options. If you didn't do that when you install Python, you won't be able to run it like this. Okay. If you can run Python like this, that means you can also run pip, the Python package installer. Okay. To install something that's not on your computer like Pygame or NumPy, what you do is you do pip or pip3 if you've got Python 3, and both Python 3 and Python 2 in your system. What you do is you just simply say pip install and the name of the Python library you want to install. So if you need to install NumPy, which is a very popular numerical kind of software that's required for a lot of stuff, you just simply say NumPy and pip install NumPy. Oh yeah, you can use an API totally. Yeah, you can use an API built by somebody else and hook into it. I wouldn't expect you to build a map by yourself. So now if I go into Python, if I type import Pygame, not Pygame, if I install import, pip gets installed with Python. So you don't install pip. If on the other hand, you run Python, right? You try doing Python on your terminal and you get this. Sorry, you don't get this. Instead, you get if you get something that looks like this, it's not recognized as a command set. Then what you got to do is go to python.org and re-download Python because it's the easiest way then to tell you to mess with your stuff. Go click on this, run it, save it. We're going to run it now. And now where it says on the bottom, add 3.10 to path, click this button. And that will install, and that will enable to use Python in the command line. Make sense? Everybody get that? Okay, cool. That will fix that problem. Also, I should mention though that because the way command lines work, if you install that, you'll need to, if it wasn't working before and you installed it, to get it actually working, you'll have to close it and then reopen your command prompt or your terminal or whatever you want to call it. And then it will work. Okay. So that is how you install Python things like that. I think even Pygame, it says, look over here, it says pip install Pygame. That's how you get it. And Pygame, again, it's worth getting into just simply because you do that. Some Raspberry Pi comes with, yep, Raspberry Pi wants you to use Pygame a lot. So anyway, so getting started. Okay. And then it says, go and look at the tutorials or dive into the docs. So here there's different tutorials that they'll talk about, which tell you how to build games. So intro, this tells you how to basically make a hello world program, tells you how to make very standard sprites. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty, but basically the entire idea here is how to do those kind of things and how to do animation. I recognize that sprite. That's from Advance Wars. That's from Advance Wars. Did you use assets from Advance Wars to do this? No, but I just recognize that from being from Advance Wars. But it teaches you how to do things like use sprites. It shows you how to build a game from scratch. And again, once you do your first game, the next one is easier. Okay. If you're more comfortable in learning in another language, there are some tutorials here, apparently, for non-English speakers, I should say non-English being your first language speakers. So here's one specifically on platformers. Platformers are games like Mario, where basically the entire idea is just jumping. Here it's done, the graphical assets are nothing but drawing squares. That's perfectly fine to begin with, but you know, if you want to be in the running for best games, you're definitely going to need to use sprites. If you want to make some kind of platformer, specifically for platformers, in terms of best project consideration, the judgment comes in the smoothness of animation and controls, and the quality of the sprites. Another kind of game that might be useful is kind of you've got your Space Invader style game. That's definitely this one's, yes, done to death. Don't care. It's still a good idea because there's a lot of moving parts here. You've got destructible environments. You've got enemies who move on their own and who change and get faster and faster. You know, that works. That is a decent use of your time to learn something like that. If you prefer other types of games like that, you could do Galaga, which is a bit more involved. But other games like that, those are good. Games, on the other hand, like Legend of Zelda, adventure games, they require a lot more time and a lot more effort. So RPGs would be difficult. Fighting games are okay. A fighting game is perfectly fine. And I assume by fighting game, you mean Street Fighter as opposed to Streets of Rage. By fighting game, I assume you mean a one-on-one fighting game like Street Fighter, Tekken, or the like. King of Fighters. Yeah, you could totally do a platform fighter. If by platform, I assume platform fighter means something in the styles of Smash Brothers. Yeah, Smash Brothers style game would be great. Would be hilarious amounts of fun. And with platformer fighters, you get away with those are more. You can get away with goofier graphics on those. Fighting games are, but like a traditional fighter, yeah, totally. All right. So any questions about any specific questions about final projects and stuff that people want to ask or want me to go into a bit more depth about? So virtual environment, are you talking about virtual environments in terms of, so Andrew, are you talking about virtual? Okay. Virtual environments basically mean that, if I recall correctly, you want to keep it keeps your Python installs separate. Basically, here. in Python, there's a ton of different, you can install Python like in a ton of different places and in a ton of different ways to the point where it becomes a bit obscene. So what a virtual environment does is it basically says, with this project, we're going to just use this Python and this stuff that's been installed with Python. Okay, that's what virtual environments help you with, if I recall, if I understand that right. Is it possible to make an iOS app and also use other apps' data? I suppose. Just don't violate the other app's term of service. Okay. Is there anything specific that you can't do? You can't do anything criminal. Okay, you can't violate any U.S. laws or the laws of wherever you happen to be. So, and that's fairly straightforward, which essentially means don't make an app that goes into people's data without their consent. Don't make an app that that could hurt somebody. Can you make a basic toy? Yeah, you can make a toy, totally. Can you make an action figure / toy? That sounds fantastic. That's a great idea. Is there a good website for choose your own adventures? If I would either do it in Pygame, so I would either do it in Pygame, or if you want to do pictures, I would definitely take a look at RenPy. Again, it is meant for visual novels, which are the whole idea of choose your own adventures, but with pictures. Okay, definitely look at doing that. So with regards to like, basically what it comes down to is that a lot of crimes that involve computers come down under the broad spectrum of unauthorized computer use, basically using or unauthorized access to a network, which is a felony. So big kid crime. In other words, don't use people's computers or their computer accounts without their consent. That's basically the only thing you have to worry about. And that shouldn't really come up as an issue. The government ostensibly gets the ability to do it gets a warrant for that. You'd be surprised. Technically, if somebody leaves their computer unlocked and you open up their web browser and go into Facebook and start messing with their account, technically that's a felony. It doesn't really take much. Will people prosecute that? Probably not, but I mean, not to that extent, but you know, the computer law is weird.
Wait, I have a question, but all these companies already do this to us. So how is it not illegal on their end?
You agreed to their term of service.
So if we make a terms of service, then it's legal?
Depends on what you use your data for, but yeah.
Huh. CIA, here I come.
Probably don't want to do anything that gets you onto their radar as an American, because I mean the alphabet agencies are always hiring. So, now what am I going to teach you the rest of the semester? Besides that stuff, in addition to this stuff. So what I plan on doing with the rest of the semester, again, Tuesday, what am I going to do? I'm going to check in. I'm going to split you up into breakout rooms on Tuesday. And I'm going to go and I'm going to try my best to talk to basically just ask very quickly with everybody, what is your project idea? And making sure that that's an okay idea. That's and once I do that, you are free to go on Tuesday. So Tuesday's meant to be a fairly short lecture. The other thing I plan on lecturing about is regular expressions. Regular expressions are something baked into pretty much every single language. They are extremely powerful tools. So again, let me go ahead and just talk. So let me go and stop sharing for a second so I can pull up an exam from a previous semester. Okay, and then we can talk about the idea of regular expressions. Okay, and I think I'll leave today with story time for everybody to talk about the importance of regular expressions. No, you don't have to choose one. The pre-proposal is for you to talk about all your ideas. I think you have until the 7th before I think November 7th during your actual proposal. That is when you're locked into your idea. Okay. We don't really change your project idea after your proposal because unless something really exceptional happens. Okay. So let's see, GitHub, Classroom, destruct. Destruction, not destructors. Intro to Python, that's what we want. All right. So I'm just looking, exam 2. I'm just seeing if this exam has this in there. I don't think it does. But let's go ahead and take a look at one of the questions that in here in exam 2 that I think would definitely be the kind of questions that I think are appropriate that you definitely want to know about for kind of the final exam. Like if I were to add a 4th question, it would be this kind of question. Okay, so suppose I had a file called temperature.csv, which contains the daily highs and low temperatures recorded in Philadelphia. The file is composed of 3 fields per line containing the date, the high temperature, and low temperature. Every field is separated like a comma. For example, the contents of the file might look like this, with the dots actually not literally being there, but indicating there's more data underneath it. Write a program that calculates or prints the following: the day with the hottest high temperature, the day with the coldest low temperature, and the average of the high temperatures for the entire file. So going through basically date by date, creating an average, as well as figuring out which the maximum of the highs are and the minimums of the lows. That's kind of a question that I think would be a good one to know for your final. I know we're still months away from that, but like I want to just tell you what kind you kind of know how to do that already. Okay. Now this is a question that will definitely be on the final, or not this question, but like this is kind of the question I love asking for the final exam. Not this one exactly. Write a function that will replace all strings matching a social security number format. SSN, that's social security number, such as 111, 22, 33, 33, with redacted in a given file. Save the result in a new file. No need to return anything because you're writing to a new file, which we'll go over. Now, why do I care about this question? Because it's important. Because for this question, we are going to have to, so for the context of the question, we're going to turn back time to the before times, a slightly saner time of the run-up to the 2016 election. Now, I should mention that first off, the politician I'm talking about, I'm making fun of simply because that's the person who made this mistake. When somebody has something similar happen of a more recent example, of a more recent if a more recent incident happens, I'll be making fun of that person. You can't access that file. It's in a completely different GitHub. Okay. That's an older final exam. So, and I still want to reuse some of the questions from it. So I'm going to talk. So back in the 2015, during the 2016 campaigning season, there was a candidate named Jeb Bush. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of Jeb Bush, and yes, there's a reason for me talking about Jeb Bush in this class. Okay. Jeb Bush is still the topic of some memes where basically you'll see him as like the winner for some certain elections, even though he wasn't running in it. Yes, the Jeb with the exclamation point meme. That is the meme I am talking. So Jeb Bush is the, let's see, he's the brother of former President George W. Bush, the son of George H.W., and he was the governor of Florida from 1999 to 2007, right? So, you know, very, very political family. He announced his presidential candidacy in June 15th and 2015. And he ended his campaign in February 20th. Now, why am I talking about him? Well, he was the governor of Florida. And what is Florida known for? It's known for Florida Man, of course. Now, who knows about, now, anybody want to go into more information about Florida Man, Florida's worst superhero? Anybody want to explain to people who are not from the US what exactly or who exactly is Florida Man? And yes, this has to do with programming, I swear.
I can explain Florida Man.
Okay, what is Florida Man?
So basically you can look up Florida Man followed by any date for like a while, and some crazy story about a man from Florida will come up. It's because of a law that like every crime has like, it's public. You get like public record. I forget the exact law, but I know there's a law about it.
Yep. So let's go to trusty Wikipedia again. Florida Man is one of those memes where basically you could take Florida Man and then something, and then you will get an article about something crazy that somebody from Florida did. Now this Miami's News Times. Now people joke this is obviously because Florida is crazy. And I mean, like every state with a high number of population of people is going to be crazy. You know, you're going to have some crazies in there. The more people you have, the more people who are, you know, that are going to do crazy things. Okay.
Yeah, New York still doesn't have Florida beat. Never will.
I think it might also just be the year-long, just kind of nice weather that some parts of Florida have. But
they're crazy down there.
So anyway, I'm just reminded of that scene from The Good Place where there's a banker and he's like, I'm sorry, we're legally not allowed to have anybody from Florida in this bank. So but anyway, part of, as David so kindly mentioned, then the part of the reason we see this is because Florida has some very strong sunshine laws, freedom of information laws. So it makes it very easy for any kind of journalist to get the information about arrest records. And so Miami News, CNN says it's because of the public record law being very easy to get to for journalists. So you can really easily write the details of this report. Very high and diverse population in the state because there's different parts of Florida, which are all very different. Weather can make things crazy. Let me make sure my isn't frozen. I'm talking about Florida Man and just simply on the Wikipedia page. Okay. So, but the long story short about Florida Man is that Florida has some very strong freedom of information laws. And Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida for a while. In fact, he was known as he'd like to be referred to himself sometimes as the e-governor because of his use of email and other kind of other things. Yep. So here in February 2015, Bush released several thousand emails from his time as governor online. Most of the emails are in public record under the Florida Sunshine Laws. However, he created some controversy by releasing emails that can contain, so like him releasing those emails, these emails would have been easy to get due to the freedom of information laws, most likely. So preemptively doing that and showing how transparent you are, great. Accidentally releasing people's personal medical information or their social security numbers, not so great. Let's take a look at some of them that have been redacted, by the way. So this is from The Verge, because they do have screenshots. Shots. Oh, Florida man strikes again as part of the, I love that, just little snide bit over there. So some of these are like just sharing today. I feel beaten down. I want to help many and hope it can get there someday. So this one is just like, just talking about stuff. Some stuff is religious parables. Some stuff is praise to the governor. Some is just boring bureaucratic stuff that's part of government. And then you see stuff like this. I think it's from a release. Dear Governor Jeb Bush, RE blank. Social security number blank. This letter is to inform you the facts regarding blank's employment at the House of Hope in Orlando. We need this person. Can you please like help? And asking the governor for help, believe it or not, with like cases about medical stuff or employment stuff, that's actually not that far out. Accidentally being declared dead, legally dead, is a huge issue. It happens very rarely, but you can accidentally be declared dead. This makes it hard to file police reports or get some help about this because you're dead. You can't interact with the legal system.
However, this is one loophole of how you get out of the system and can live free. True freedom.
You'd be, well, yeah, but try getting a job.
Again, you're living in the woods. You can be free from society. You don't have to be near anybody. Nobody knows you're alive.
We're gonna go quickly off track if we continue on this debate. So I'm gonna snip it here. But the way you can, but basically the easiest way to get around some kind of insane bureaucratic stuff like that is you email like either the governor, a representative, a senator, a state senator. You email somebody over the heads of the Social Security office so that they can kick somebody into fixing it. That is the way you resolve it. But notice that like here, this kind of information here has the Social Security number of the mother of the patient and their medical ID. Just stuff you don't want necessarily released into wild. And it was released into the wild. Yeah, your email communications may be subjected to public disclosure, but things like your Social Security number are explicitly protected. So your Social Security number, for those of you who are not from the US, that's like an ID number for Americans, except we don't have national ID. But we have a Social Security number, which is not a national ID, but we use it like one anyway, which is, that's a whole other rant for a whole different day. But just know that basically somebody releasing your Social Security number is one of those numbers that you don't share with people. Okay. So the issue is that this document has Social Security numbers in it. Okay. So what we'll learn on next Thursday is how to find these things and how to not only how to find these things, but basically strip a file of any access from this, because this kind of thing is easily dealt with. It is easily taken care of. We can easily find Social Security numbers and remove them. It's just a matter of technical know-how with regular expressions. So let's just go ahead and see what I mean by that. And you'll have to wait until next Thursday for the explanation of that, which is, but let's go ahead and this is a regular expression tester. The regular expression is going to go in between these slashes. So that's the only part you really need to pay attention to. My SSN is 123-45-6789. And if that is your Social Security number, I am so sorry that I have, revealed that private information. Again, it is okay. I'll do it without slashes that time. Okay. So, okay. So there are a bunch of social security numbers. So again, for those of you who don't have to interact with them regularly or don't care, the way a social security number looks, it presented typically is that it's 3 numbers followed by a dash, then a series of 2 numbers followed by a dash, and then 4 numbers. So it's 3 numbers, 2 numbers, 4 numbers. Very amused by your comments in chat, by the way. If we were to, like, you know, just try to find something that's a social security number with a standard kind of Python program, it would actually be pretty arduous. We'd have to write an if, we'd have to scan through every letter and say, hey, is this a number? Okay, if so, check the number after that, and then the number after that. Oh, sorry, check those character after that to make sure it's a number. Then check the character after that to make sure it's a number. Then the character after that to make sure that's a dash. It's kind of very tedious as you're just listening to me, and I'm not even a third of the way through. Okay, but with regular expressions, we can do it easily. I can write something very concise. A regular expression that's very concise that will detect a social security number. And again, I'll be teaching you how to do this all in next Thursday. This is just kind of a preview and kind of the use case for it. And notice that what it highlighted all these social security numbers over here. Didn't highlight this one because this one had 3 letters in it. So I'll just remove that. It's there. So it highlighted all the social security numbers. Although it didn't highlight this one. I could do that by making that optional, though. And now that, yeah, it looks like a bunch of gibberish, doesn't it? It's actually not so bad. Let's go back to without the question marks. So what is our regular expressions? They're a super powerful find replace, and they are built into all sorts of stuff. For instance, let's go ahead and open up Word. Something you'll almost never do in a programming class.
Can we use that function in Python, or is it just JavaScript?
Oh, you can use this in pretty much every single programming language. Okay, so it's because they're so ubiquitous. So here I'm going to open this up, and if I hit Control, if I do font, if I'm doing the find. See, I haven't had to do I haven't had to mess with Word in forever. But where is like let's see, where's the search text box or everything? Search. Can I do regular expressions? I know there are regular expressions somewhere. Well, it told me it wanted to do math, but sorry, I'd never use advanced find. Here we go. Find more, and then search all, format special. Those things. Find URL words. So search all. I don't know if Word has it. I've seen it in other things, but there's a lot of, but anything that
maybe Excel.
Oh, hey, any character? It's got its own, so Word has its own own meta language, I guess. Okay, my bad. Word has its own language. Don't save. I think I want to say that Excel has it. Give me a second.
That's what I was thinking, because I find a lot of the concepts cross over from Excel to Python and vice versa.
Let's see. Nope, I can't see anything with that, but you can use this in pretty much every programming language to do this. Okay, so, and again, I'll show you how to do it in Python. But here we found all this stuff, we found these social security numbers. And the way this works is, so I don't know why I thought it was, I could have sworn it was in, but basically regular expressions are super powerful find replace, right? The idea here is that this /d means any single digit. So I'm just going to cut, and notice that it's highlighting every single number. It's saying that basically it's highlighting everything that matches this regular expression. So if I do 2 of these things /d's, it's matching any sequence of 2 numbers in a row. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Notice it didn't get 2, 3 because the way it works is that it finds it and then it continues on. It's not going to overlap. Okay. If I wanted 3 numbers in a row, 3 digits in a row, I do 3 slashes in a row like this. So any digit, any digit, any digit, which I can shorten. I can shorten that up by saying D and then use curly braces and say 3. So I want 3 of the preceding thing, which is any digit. So digit, how many of them? 3 of them, please. Followed by a dash. Just dash to get a dash, no worries. But like if I want something that could be any number of characters, I do, you know, there are special cases like here the /d. No, this wouldn't have worked for your Hawaiian because again, this is a very powerful kind of find replace. And it would have been more effort than it was worth to try to do it for like your Hawaiian. So here 2, and then a dash, and then any digit, and I'd like 4 of them. And then the way I got the last one is that there's another, that the question mark has, like many of the other characters, has a special case in it, which says that the preceding thing is optional. So I want 0 or 1 of the preceding thing. I'd like 0 or 1 dash or 0, 1 dash. Although that would technically, although that technically matches this, where there's 1 dash, but not the other, which seems wrong. So I could always do, I can also just do that, which is an or. Find something that matches, find something that matches this, that format, or let's see, a social security number is how many long? It's 3, 2, it's 9 long. So yeah, it looks like gibberish, but when you're writing it, it's not. So it makes more sense. So these regular expressions are really powerful, and I would definitely say they're worth learning. And so that's why we're going to learn them. Other topics we'll do are we'll also look at searching and sorting in general. And just other general computer science concepts like recursion and object-oriented programming. All right, so that's what I have for today.